Salam, shalom, and peace. I want to welcome all of you to this first gathering of European Muslim and Jewish leaders being held here in Brussels. The gathering is convened by the Foundation for Ethnic Understanding, the World Jewish Congress, and the European Jewish Congress. My name is Rabbi Marc Schneier, and I serve as president of the foundation and also as the vice president of the World Jewish Congress. My friends, we gather here in Brussels during the celebrated Jewish festival of Hanukkah, which is the festival of lights, the season of miracles. And I'd like to reference one tradition from the Hanukkah ritual, which I believe can serve as a very important message to all of us. In the Jewish tradition, when we light the Hanukkah candles, when we recite the blessings, after we recite the blessings, there is a special prayer that we add. And we look at the candles, and we say in Hebrew, I'll translate this into English, we say, Hanerot halalu kodesh hem, that these candles are sacred. Ve'ein lanu rishut lishtamesh bahem, that we have no authority, we're not permitted to put them to any use. Ela lerotam bilvad, they can only be looked upon. So let's understand what this prayer is saying. What this prayer is saying, that these candles cannot be used for any practical purposes. That these candles, we cannot even read by their light. That these candles can only be used for the actual fulfillment of the commandment. We're not even allowed to use one candle to light the other. Now, why do I share this thought with you? Because this is the very message of Hanukkah, and I believe this is the very message of our gathering here today. How indebted we are to impracticality. Very often in our society, we measure the value of all things by the pragmatic question of what is it good for? What can it be used for? And if you think back to the story of Hanukkah, you think back to 168 before the Common Era, that thank God there were enough impractical people who were ill-equipped and ill-trained, enough impractical people who dared to take on a mighty foe, who followed the line of most resistance, or as the saying goes, would rather fight than switch. When I look back these last 5 years, in our initiatives, in our activities on behalf of strengthening relations between Muslims and Jews, I say to all of you, thank God for all the impractical people. Thank God that in the year 2007, when we convened the first gathering of Muslim clerics, imams, scholars, and rabbis in the United States and Canada, and we were ridiculed by leaders in our respective communities for convening such a gathering. Thank God there were enough impractical people that joined us in these efforts. 3 years after the conference, when we now have the twinning of mosques and synagogues in 22 countries, hundreds of mosques and synagogues in 22 countries. When we were attacked that this kind of program would be futile. Thank God there were enough impractical people that believed in our efforts. Or when so many of you joined us in New York and Washington 18 months ago, and you visited with us at the UN, at the White House, and you were exposed to the wonderful work that we're doing back in the States in strengthening relations between Muslims and Jews. Thank God there were enough impractical people that came back to Europe and said, we would like to do the same. And when I look around this room, I look at a Rabbi, Michel Serfati, who literally travels thousands of miles throughout France in order to bring our two communities together. Thank God for impractical people like Michel Serfati. Or when I look at Imam Shalgumi, who not only is a great champion on behalf of the Muslim community, but has become a great champion and spokesperson and advocate on behalf of the rights of Jews as well. Thank God for impractical people. Or Rabbi Reuben Livingstone, who just 10 days ago, and Imam Sajid can speak about this, who 10 days ago in the House of Lords in London hosted a historic gathering of Muslim and Jewish leaders as the Al-Azhar University in Cairo issued a declaration lifting the prohibition of dialogue with Jews, and it was under the leadership, the vision of Sheikh Sharkawi and Rabbi Livingstone. Thank God for the impractical people. And when I look at a young man like Ilya Sakhovsky, who has been able to galvanize young Muslim and Jewish leaders throughout Europe and to create a whole new paradigm, a whole new example of Muslim-Jewish cooperation, Ilya, thank God. Thank God for the impractical people. So that's my message to all of you, that we gather here today because we are the impractical people. We are the impractical people who are swimming upstream against conventional wisdom, against all those who say that there cannot be cooperation between Muslims and Jews. But we understand, we the impractical people, we understand that not only as the children of Abraham, not only do we share a common faith, but we share a common fate. And it is our single destiny that strengthens our bonds of concern, compassion, and caring for each other. So it is in this spirit of impracticality, the impractical people, the ones that humanize living and that add a dimension of holiness to our existence. So I formally welcome you into our constituency of impractical people, which I believe is a very, very timely message when we, the Jewish people, we, the Jewish community, when we celebrate Hanukkah, and we owe the miracle of this great festival to the impractical people that dared to take on a foe far more mighty and far more numerous.